Yeah, it's alive again. It's another Monday, so it's lock and load, and this is our Monday show. And this we can never have enough tomahawks. Uh, Trump has fired off about 59 tomahawks into Syria, and Squib made a visit to what was the base you went to?
So I was on assignment for Lock and Load, and I went to the USS New Jersey in Camden, New Jersey. She's an Iowa-class battleship, and in the 80s, Reagan had her pulled out of mothballs and upgraded with Tomahawk cruise missile launchers, and now she's a floating museum. I also went to the submarine museum in, I'm going to butcher the name, I think it's Groton, Connecticut. And modern submarines have the capability to launch Tomahawk cruise missiles as well. So they had one on static display.
Cool. So they can launch from subs and battleships, which we don't really have any more of. I don't think there's any deployed actively.
But it's called a armored box launcher, and it would be the same apparatus on a cruiser, destroyer, that sort of thing. So pretty much the same technology.
And basically, these are all global satellite positioning, guided by global satellites. So
you can program the course into it, and it just follows the course. That way, there's no way that you can jam its communication with it. Now, I don't know if they have the option to have in-flight course change or something like that. What we learned about the cruise missiles when I was in was that they just pre-programmed the destination in there and let it go.
Right. I mean, we have anti-satellite, capabilities, and so do the Chinese and Russians. So I'm assuming if they were programmed to follow to, judge where they are by global satellite, global GPS, then a satellite attacks could, screw up its capability. I mean, granted, yeah, you can program it to not be reliant on that. But if
because if you had some sort of way to jam the inputs you were getting, then the missile would go off course. Whereas if you tell it you're going to hit this target at this destination, okay, sure, it's using the same GPS everybody's using it to know its destination, but it knows how far to fly, how high to fly, where to turn to get around mountains and everything. I mean, it's unreal what they can program these missiles with. They can fly right through a valley and miss every rock. I mean, it's pretty amazing what they can do with these things.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, obviously the thing about this strike that I don't know if anybody's talking about, it really reminded me of a scene from Silverado where the sheriff is chasing the two guys out of town, and their friend is like up in the rocks, and the sheriff is chasing to Emmett and the other guy out of town, and the guy, starts shooting at the sheriff and his posse, and it shoots his hat off. It shoots, basically. And one of the guys said, "Well, wait a minute. He's been shooting at us, but he hasn't hit it. He hasn't hit us. He hasn't hit anything." And he's like, "Well," the sheriff says, "You idiot. He's hit everything that he's aimed at. He wasn't trying to shoot him." And that's what Trump did. He didn't shoot at the Russians or the Syrians. He just, I think maybe they blew up some planes or shit, but I mean, nothing that can't be replaced. He warned the Russians, to get out of there because there's missiles coming in, and the Russians tip off the Syrians. So it wasn't really a strike in the sense that they were trying to kill people. They weren't trying to kill the Russians, because if they wanted to kill the Russians, they would have killed the Russians.
With the cruise missiles, you can be almost surgical. You can't recall them. You can't turn them around and bring them back. Once you fire them, you fired them. But you can be pretty surgical about where, if you want to hit a building, it'll go after a building. as long as you've got that pre-programmed into its guidance computer. So you're not really, you don't really have to worry about collateral damage too much with the cruise missiles. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's less likely. And you didn't have to put boots on the ground. American lives weren't risked.
Well, in a sense they were. I mean, not with the strike, but I mean, it's like whatever the backlash is from it. It depends. There's two options on how the Russians and Syrians could react. They could react logically, and that reminds me of a Star Trek episode, but the Galileo 8 or something like that, where basically the Russians react logically, and it's like, well, they just, have very precision weapons, so we don't want to fight them. Or they can react emotionally and say, well, fuck them, and just, find something with American flag on it and blow it up, So sometimes people react emotionally,
That's true. That's true. I was in New York City, was it the day after the strike, and my buddy was texting me and asking me if I had seen heightened security in New York City, in fear of retaliation. And I said, no, I didn't. They weren't. I don't think they were any more, on security alert. Now, I mean, that would be from terrorists, not necessarily the Assad government, but still. There is always the threat of some sort of retaliation or something like that. But I mean, considering who it is that's going to do the retaliating, I'm not really that worried. Compared to us, I mean, they just.
Well, yeah, but we do have Marines in Syria, and they could send in Russians if they were really pissed. They could send in their special forces to attack the Marines, which and hopefully they won't do that, because the Marines can take care of themselves, but you can always get into some deep shit, if they, bring some friends, or fly in reinforcements. So,
I mean, I don't want this to escalate, but you have to look at it like this. It's not just the Assad government that he was sending a message to. He was sending a message to everybody. We don't appreciate people using chemical weapons. I mean, especially on civilians, especially on children. But
I think the message was, I've got my finger on a bunch of cruise missiles. That was the message.
Well, just if the terrorists ever thought, maybe we should use chemical weapons as a against the population of the United States of America, just be prepared to get shot at. So, I mean, it's something. It's pretty scary stuff, and it's really hard to.
It is scary,
to fight back against that stuff.
Who do they retaliate against if terrorists do it? That's the whole thing.
Well, we would attack terrorist camps, with whatever government was providing them with the materials. I mean, but still, I'm not saying we did it as a deterrent against terrorists or other nations, but it also sends a message to terrorists and other nations. Hey, the United States don't take kindly to using chemical weapons. So that's all. I'm just saying there's a secondary, effect from that. So.
Yes. Well, and I liked, it's like, so like Under Siege with Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey and Steven Seagal, they didn't have Tomahawk missiles. They don't have a self-destruct mechanism built in.
You know what? We didn't. We touched on Tomahawks when I was in service, learning about different ordnance. Yeah, even though none of our aircraft carried them, that the only aircraft I know that carried Tomahawks was B-52. But I don't recall anything about a self-destruct, sending a self-destruct signal to the Tomahawk. If there is, it's probably highly classified. But some of the stuff in movies is total fiction, and it makes for good movies. I would venture to say there probably isn't, because the enemy could learn that code and they could use it on the missiles, rendering the missile ineffective. There's a lot of things on ordnance that prevents it from being from countermeasures being used against it. So you can't jam some sort of signal that arms something or that causes something to detonate at a certain height or that would cause it to go out of control. I'm not saying it's impossible and that all forms of ordnance have that, but I'm just saying that I would think that more than likely no.
Yeah. Well, you'd hate to have lose with all the hacking that goes on. You'd hate to send out a missile and then just have somebody have the other side have the destruct code for all your missiles.
Yeah, and all they're doing is broadcasting that code 24/7. And if a missile gets within so many miles, it blows up in midair and never gets. Yeah, that's why I would say that probably not.
Yeah, I mean, but U.S. drones have been shot down, and taken and studied by Iran and Russia and stuff, because U.S. drones definitely have been out there. All right, let's see. So, did we screen share your pictures of your trip with the drones? Let's do that from New Jersey. If you can find them. Squid is digging through his stuff. Yeah, I think I talked about chemical warfare when I got my gas mask. I think was it last week or the week before, and I saw something on the History Channel about World War I, and also actually more recently during the Cold War, Russia had a city where they used to manufacture anthrax, some particularly nasty forms of it, and it had gotten out of their base, which people had been told was just a tank manufacturing facility, but they were really manufacturing chemical warheads for missiles, and some of the anthrax got out into the local population, and people just showed up at the hospital with anthrax, and so they had to send in the KGB to keep everybody quiet, and people in biohazard suits were just like vacuuming up everything, and because basically the whole population was in the surrounding area was infected with this highly virulent anthrax form, and that took like a few days for the people in the hospital to figure it out, and then the KGB came in. Oh, we lost Squid. All right. So for anybody that didn't see the Tomahawks that I had, I'll just show mine on the video on my YouTube channel. Show mine if I can figure out how to turn on my camera on my laptop. Well, hopefully Squib gets his computer working. I know he had some computer problems last week. Jesus, this is live TV. Oh yeah, and YouTube is demonetizing stuff, so who knows? So we may have to change the name to Nug channels instead of gun channels. Just say it backwards. But let's see if I can turn on this camera. Right, so here it is. It's got a tech lock, and it comes off like that. So this is my Tomahawk. There's many like it, but this one is mine. And it only costs $20. The SOG, SOG, Strategic Study and Observations Group, that costs the $20 too for the sheath. The one it comes with really is not that good, but here's my Tomahawk. I used to own Raytheon stock. And anyway, so this is my Tomahawk. There's many like it, but this one is mine. I wish I would have hung on to my Raytheon stock, because it's when I bought it, it was like $16, and I think it's split and it's over 100 or something now. They make the Tomahawk missile. Resheet that. And in case I haven't done a video of this knife yet, so I'm going to show this too. This is my new. This is my new knife. This is a Mandrake camo cryptic Mandrake camo pattern on a tech lock. This tech lock works like that. Goes right on your belt. Just locks it so you can't press down the button anymore. But here's a knife. It's a Dawson knife out of Phoenix, Arizona. 5160 steel, Cerakote, Sandviper, Cerakote, Sandviper camo pattern. I just put some, welcome back, Squib. I just put some oil right on the edge, because this Cerakote protects the rest of it from rust, because it's 5160, which basically is a steel that has, it's full tang. It's got enough chromium to make it tough, just enough to make it tough, but not enough to make it stainless steel. So the Cerakote protects from rust and stuff. It's micarta handles, lanyard hole at the end, and it's just pretty fucking awesome blade, full tang all the way through. So eventually, if you when I start doing woodwork and stuff, some of the Cerakote will scrape off, and I'll have to put a little more oil on it. But it's a pretty nice looking knife. The Dawson Knives has a YouTube channel, and I saw that they stuck one of these in a tree and basically stood on it, for their toughness test. Basically, if you put just the right of chromium in it, and then it makes it pretty tough. If you put too much, it makes it too soft. So they, I guess they quenched it right, or they wouldn't have done that test. But they're out of Prescott, Arizona, and so that's my new fun toy for this week. All right, so welcome back. You dropped out there, I guess, which is par for the course, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're talking about jamming guidance systems, and I got jammed.
I'm glad you don't have a self-destruct mechanism in your laptop.
Yeah, that would be bad.
All right, so you managed to find the file on from your pictures of the Tomahawks on your trip to New Jersey?
Yes. So it's called an ABL, an armored box launcher, and you load up Tomahawks, and when you're ready to go, it just launches them, and there you go.
It's like a box lunch. All right.
Don't forget.
Well, I got you on present to everyone, so like if you share just screen share those pictures. Let's see.
Okay. So there's the launcher from the side. You can see the Tomahawk sticking out.
I'm not seeing it.
You can see the launchers raised.
You're not. Okay,
I'm not seeing it. All right. Let me. Oh, you know what? Let me try this. How about now?
Yep.
Now do you see it?
That's better.
That's better.
Okay. So there it is. It's in a raised, so you can see the one next to it's in a lowered position, and this one's in a raised position. And that is what the missile itself looks like. That's at the Submarine Museum in Connecticut. And you can see it's got a scoop underneath there because it's more or less a jet engine. So that's the air intake, and there's the exhaust. It's not a rocket, it's a jet. And there is the launcher. This would be similar to the launcher that was on the ships that fired on Syria. And you can see there's 4 tubes. And there you go.
All right. So you didn't get to actually fire a missile. So what other ships did they have there?
I mean, not one of those.
Yeah.
Well, at the New Jersey battleship, there's just the New Jersey, and she's in pretty good shape, and the people at the museum are real nice. Across the river in Philadelphia, there's the Olympia, which is a protected cruiser from the 19th century, and they've got a small sub there. It's a World War II sub. It's not a Gato class. I can't remember what it was, but it's not. It hasn't been altered that much. So when you go crawling through it, you really go crawling through it. It's not been opened up a lot for people, and I kind of like that. It is a lot more authentic. And then when we were up in New York City, we went to the Intrepid Museum, and they've got a sub there that used to fire the old cruise missiles, the old Regulus cruise missiles, which are a lot bigger than a Tomahawk and not as accurate. And that was the Growler, and that one's been opened up quite a bit for people to, they shuffle them in, they shuffle them out. But old technology. Cruise missiles were invented in World War II by the Germans. So
yeah, the V2. And
the V1. The V1.
Well, those were rockets, though. Those weren't jets. I mean, the jet was.
No, the V1 is a jet. It's a jet. No, the V1's a jet. It's a pulse jet. It's not a rocket. The V2 is a rocket. That's an ICBM. That's different. The V2 is entirely different. The V1 is a cruise missile.
Okay. Yeah, the Gato class subs you were talking about, I think those were the fleet submarines and in the Pacific. And I think there's about 50 crews on Eternal Patrol. But they really sunk they really messed up Japanese shipping. They were afraid to put anything on a boat after there was unrestricted submarine warfare in the Pacific. They lost a lot of ships. But there was a price paid to do that, So unrestricted submarine warfare was in the Pacific was, U.S. subs, and in the Atlantic it was German subs. So. All right. Well, that's great, man. Thanks for those pictures. That's just awesome. And so these can carry obviously any kind of warhead. That obviously
a cruise missile, you can put a conventional warhead on it. You can put a nuke on it. It can actually fire multiple projectiles downward. It can actually fly over the target and rain down on it with
multiple independent warheads,
like a cluster bomb.
Yes. Okay, multiple independent warheads. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I know that ICBMs can do that, but I didn't know cruise missiles could do that.
So it's more or less instead of having the warhead explode, it blasts downward. So you fly over the top of the target, and you send multiple. I don't even really know what it is. It's multiple munitions directly downward on top of it, like a cluster bomb.
Right. So, well, cluster bomb is different from multiple independent warheads, but
well, not multiple independent warheads, but they're multiple pieces of ordnance that
right.
Come down. So, you basically chop to pieces whatever it is below you.
Right. So basically, the whole thing go ahead.
Well, those jets were in hardened hangars, and that they do that on purpose to protect them from air attack, because they're very vulnerable to air attack. I mean, as we know from Pearl Harbor, right? So, in order to make these cruise missiles effective, they've got to be able to get in there and do a lot of damage. So I don't know what type of warheads they were using on these. I don't know if they've got Well, yeah, but did they have a bunker buster version?
I don't think they needed to. I don't think they needed to penetrate that because they could just fly into the bunker. at just a low level. They didn't need to really penetrate. They could just fly right into it, They weren't
Well, I
being
heard
bombed.
the people on CNN complaining. The people on CNN were complaining that they were using these cruise missiles to damage the runway, and the runway didn't look very damaged to them. And I was thinking, you could use a cruise missile to damage a runway, but that wouldn't be my first pick. I would use aircraft to bomb the runway. So
honestly, I think this was just psychological warfare. Basically, Trump saying we can attack you anywhere, anytime and we've got missiles for days. So I'm gonna just waste 60 of them or whatever, and because it's like nothing to us. I've got another 60 or 70 lined up, ready to go. So the Russians will send out but I think Putin's going to throw out his chest and do some stuff. What really, pisses me off is it's like, is everybody with a YouTube channel that, is into conspiracy theories runs over to Zero Hedge and Russian television and gets that side, and just, it's like this big internet echo chamber of whatever, Russian propaganda ministers are putting out. I read Zero Hedge because it's too dangerous to just completely ignore what Russian intelligence is putting out. But you have to take all news sources with a grain of salt, because everybody was saying, oh, it's a false flag, and all that shit. It's like, please give me a break. The Russians are perfectly, as far as I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but I expect everybody to lie about everything. So, just don't go to Zero Hedge and believe everything automatically, or listen to RT and just believe that they're telling you the truth. Either just like I do not listen to CNN at all, or any cable news network, and believe everything they say. I take it all with a grain of salt. As far as what happened, I don't know. But I think the thing is that, we'll just in the next few days, we'll see whether, Syria and Russia react, with emotionally or logically, and what they say isn't necessarily what they're going. You have to watch what they do, not what they say. But what's really funny about it, and a complete turnaround, is that now Putin is the one drawing red lines, telling Trump not to cross. So it's like backwards from what Obama was doing, because Putin's like, don't do that again or else, So like if Putin launches one more missile, it's like, okay, I did it again. What are you going to do about it? Because that's what Putin used to do to Obama all the time. So Putin just is starting to draw red lines all of a sudden. And it's like, yeah, right. So they sent the ship through some Russian naval ship through the Bosphorus Straits, and it's headed towards the direction of where the U.S. destroyers were that launched that strike. And I don't think, I just hope that the naval ships don't start shooting at each other, because if somebody sinks a Russian destroyer, then the Russia's main, problem with fucking with Russia is that they have, ICBM missiles for days, so you really don't want to get into a shooting war, a conventional shooting war, because you don't want it to escalate, Anyway, I have my Tomahawk Walmart Tomahawk, and happy with that one. And I think Vice President Pence is going to be visiting Pearl Harbor on his Pacific tour. He's going to visit the Arizona I know he's doing a tour to Australia and stuff. So Dusty, you haven't been talking.
Yes. Well, I'm listening. I'm still here.
I know, but throw in your 2 cents, please. Otherwise, I'll start talking about the whole bug out thing that we started talking about like a show or 2 ago. And you were just so diametrically opposed to the concept of bugging out. I was just, So can't you envision any situation where you would have to bug out? Like radioactive cloud from a nuclear strike, descending on your property, or the National Guard, there's an economic collapse, the National Guard goes berserk and starts raiding people's farms for food and anything they can find, and some guys are raiding every farm in your area with, Bradley fighting vehicles and machine guns. Are you going to stay there, or are you going to leave?
Well, that situation, you'd probably have to leave, but I think that's quite far-fetched.
Yeah, but not impossible. The whole concept. Yeah, the whole concept is, whatever situation is or is not far-fetched. Is there any circumstance where, you would be, you might have to leave, and do you have any plan at all where you could, leave in short order? Because in the end, all you have on your farm is stuff that can be replaced. What can't be replaced is, you and your family's lives. So, it's just something to think about. Nobody wants to bug out. I don't want to bug out, but, at least I have some kind of plan and some kind of setup to, okay, here's 3 bags I need to grab. And, if I have time, I'll grab some other things. And but that's only if I have to bug out, so for some reason. I'd rather bug in, because all your stuff is there. But so anyway, that was my thought. I was like, wait a minute, he's like refuses to acknowledge that there could be any circumstance under which you might have to bug out, So like the Russian paratroopers are landing, or something like that.
If they start shooting tomahawks at us, it's time to bug out.
There you go.
Well, I don't know when it's time to bug out, but I imagine it'll be apparent if and when it is. And I'll take my tomahawk with me. The good thing about my tomahawk is it's so lightweight, you can just throw it on your belt. Take it with you. But yeah, the Raytheon, I wish I kept my Raytheon stock. I bought it when it was like $16, but I had like a margin call from hell one day because I had like several thousand shares of WorldCom, and Bernie Ebbers screwed that pooch. I think I remember one of his conference calls. There's somebody asked him about the huge debt load that WorldCom was carrying, and he said, "Hey, we're WorldCom. It doesn't matter." And then, very shortly thereafter, like the stock price went down from $30 to $5, $30 to $5 in like a week. But,
well, would the stock prices go up if somebody thought that they were going to get a contract to make 59 replacement missiles?
No, they go up any time anybody fires one missile and there's a war, because if somebody starts firing 59 Tomahawks in a day, well, what if they fire 100 the next day or 1,000 the next day? It's like,
Oh, okay.
When people, it's a herd. The stock market's like a herd mentality, which is here's something Janet Yellen said, was talking to some students in that said that pissed me off, because it was like, how stupid do they think we are? One of the professors at some college was just interviewing her and asking her questions, and Janet Yellen is saying, well, the economy is like a car, and so we're trying to we just gave it enough gas to get it going, but then we let it coast and cruise. We don't want to give it too much gas, and we want to keep it on an even keel. What are you talking to? You're talking to students, and it's like, it's like the same problem as, analogies of cars and boats, really. And that's what pisses me off about, YouTube demonetization. What it is about, like somebody posted something on gun channels earlier in the morning, was like, this is really not about YouTube caring about people with guns channels posting videos and stuff about guns. This is a grab of the mainstream corporate media guys who are losing audience. Nobody watches like cable news anymore, and hardly, and so they get their news from the internet, and so they're trying to, what the cable mainstream news people did is they attack them at their revenue income, and they say, well, okay, look, they go to their advertisers and say, look at all this disgusting content that your ads are appearing on. And they go to Coca-Cola and they find something, that a Coca-Cola finds objectionable that their advertisement is on. And then Coca-Cola pulls, so Google loses $3 billion worth of advertising in like a heartbeat. And so they have to go, well, no, we're demonetizing objectionable content, and the first thing that everybody objects to in the advertising world is guns are guns, because guns are bad, or whatever, but so this is really this is really like mainstream corporate media wanting to get their audience back by destroying the other forms of media, and so by attacking their advertising revenue. So they're attacking Google's advertising revenue, so Google has to, say, oh no, we're not, we demonetize, we don't put advertisements on, objectionable, questionable content. So, but the thing that's so stupid is like exactly what Janet Yellen was doing. The corporate news people, and the Washington press, it's like the stuff they put on and pass for news. It's like so stupid how it's like built for the lowest common denominator of person, right? So it's like, they must think America is just a complete, we're all idiots or something. Do they expect us to, listen to their, fake, I don't know, Trump says fake news. I mean, it's more like gobbledygook, and it's hard to get real news, but I know, watching, I'm not going to get any from CNN, but they want to put out the alternate media out completely and anything on the internet, because that's who they're losing all their audiences. Nobody goes, to watch ABC or NBC or CBS or CNN or, MSLSD, anymore, except, I mean, and you can tell when people do, because, it's just, when you meet someone who's like totally in a daze, and just watches LSD or CNN, you can tell by the things they say and the way they talk that they're just clueless about what the world is really like. They're not even prepared to survive a headache, and I doubt they could survive a 12-pack, but it's and so it's like, how dumb does the media think we are? It's like they want to cut off the internet advertising and make us listen to, corporate mainstream news, which is not news. They just want to feed us their, it's really Orwellian what they're doing. And it's not really about gun channels. It's about just it's a corporate media power play, trying to just demonetize Google by getting all their advertisers to drop, internet advertising on Google, so that's why Google has had to do something, but and I guess we're just like the low hanging fruit. People with gun channels, or or somebody that shows a picture of a gun or something, that's low hanging fruit. I mean, I could say some of the videos they demonetize, like they demonetized one of mine, that I had them re-review it, but that was right before this whole thing happened. It was just when because the title of it mentioned it was when there was a prison break in Arizona, and it was from that Aryan Skinhead Brotherhood or whatever prison gang, and basically all I said, it was just me and I think Brandon and a few other people, and he was, calling his girlfriend saying, who didn't like carrying, who wasn't used to carrying her carry weapon with a round, loaded in the chamber. He was telling you should really load a round one in the chamber, because the prison guy, there's a prison guy escaped from prison shooting people in your area, and so, but I didn't say anything good about the Aryan Brotherhood. I said it was a bad gang with bad people, and they demonetized it because it had Aryan Brotherhood in the title. So, You know, that I didn't say anything bad about anybody. You know, I think the only people that didn't like it was the prison gang. You know, so but you know, it's controversial. It goes into the, you know, and I peeled it. I don't know or care what happens to it. You know, I know that my advertising revenue was down significantly the last few days because I guess some of my gun videos aren't getting revenue anymore. But I don't just do gun videos. You know, I do knife videos, and I like to talk about guns. I like guns, but you know, I have a gas mask video. I think I have some videos of silver coins, or one of me hiking through the jungle. And you know, it's I'm not like a one-dimensional gun channel. So I suppose if you are, you won't be getting any revenue until corporate media gives up trying to attack Google. You know, I mean, really, people go to the internet for their news. And who can blame them? You know, I mean, look at how it's like they've built the, you know, making things for the lowest common denominator kind of works, you know, up to a point, but they've just gone so far into just dumbing down content of the news that it's like the world is just a bunch of ostriches with their heads stuck in the sand, waiting for, you know, some reason to pull their heads up and start running in some direction, and any random direction, and whichever everybody else in the herd is running, you know, whether it's gun control, voting for a Democrat, or blaming Trump, or blaming the Russians, or blaming, you know, Lee Iacocca, you know, or blaming Yankee Marshall, you know, it's just So I've been waiting to channel Tommy Lee Jones with the cruise missiles, you know, for this chat, because that was a pretty good movie, and Tommy Lee Jones is a pretty good actor.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So basically, the good part was when he gets his hands on the all the 12 Tomahawk missiles on the battleship, and he calls up into the command base in somewhere with all the admirals, and you know, he taps on the microphone. I don't know where my laptop microphone is, but he says, "Chaos and bedlam are consuming the world. UV light waves. It's just the beginning. We've got an inch of topsoil left. You know, sexually transmitted diseases, deforestation, irreversibly progressive depletion of the global gene pool, demonetization of YouTube videos. It all adds up to oblivion. Governments will fall. Chaos will reign. It's a brave new world." Anyway, and then Steven Seagal comes in and kicks everybody's ass or something, you know. But because it's a movie. But and they have a knife fight. So knives.
Yeah, they do have a knife fight.
So knives matter, man. You know. So I practiced McCallie, Broken 8, Heaven 6, and a bunch of other drills. So just if I ever need to be in a knife fight, you know, I've got my moves down. Hopefully it never happens. Anyway, so you had fun visiting all these Tomahawks, and did you learn anything about naval history while you're at all these bases, or
did I learn anything about what?
Naval history. I mean, you're visiting all these naval bases and stuff. I mean, any other cool stuff?
I mean, some of the stuff I already knew. Every ship that we went to, they said, "Do you need a tour guide?" And I said, "No, I'll be the tour guide." And you know, not all ships are the same, but some of the layouts. I mean, if you know your way around a military ship, it's not hard to figure out another military ship that you haven't been on. I mean, the mess deck's in the same spot, the forecastle's in the same spot, you know, that sort of thing.
Sometimes those docents do have a lot of, you know, history information, you know, though. You know, 'cause it's like visiting a museum.
I mean, sometimes it's just It's they had displays all over the place. I mean, they had I was in the fire control room for the New Jersey, and there was a kid in there, and we were talking about World War II battleships, and the kid was able to match me 1-for-1 on facts, and I was pretty impressed, because a lot of times you get these tour guides, put in air quotes, and all they know is the paragraph or two that they've been told they have to say. And after that, you ask them, well, what's this? And they don't know. Or, well, do you know if they use this with this? Well, what's of that? And, and it's kind of disappointing. It's nice when they have veterans in there. When they have these kids in there, I usually, just think that it's a part-time job while they're in college or something. But this young guy was in the fire control for the New Jersey, and he was explaining what all the screens are and how they worked. And the one screen I wanted to see was removed, so he knew where it was supposed to be, but it was removed, and that was for the CWIS.
Right, that CWIS. That's the
where you're supposed to. This is the part, where you're supposed to say what CWIS.
Well, that's, if I remember correctly, that's like depleted uranium bullets that are fired by like a Gatling gun. Is that correct?
Correct, but in Under Siege, they incorrectly called it a phalanx. And if you've never served aboard a Navy ship, you would call it a phalanx. But nobody calls it a phalanx. They call it CWIS, which stands for Close-In Support Weapon. And it's a M61A1 Gatling gun that you would use on a fighter jet with a radar mounted above it. It looks like R2-D2. And it will shoot incoming missiles, to include cruise missiles. It can be used against aircraft, but it's typically used for missiles at a range of about 2 miles or less. So when the missile's in its final guidance phase, this thing will lock onto it and tear it to pieces. It doesn't have to use depleted uranium. It could, but it could also just use a high explosive shell.
Okay, I just wanted to say hi out there on the Gun Channel side. We've got Enrique commenting on a few things, and Moon Food and Island Survivor over on Maui. Thanks for coming by and checking out the show this week. I'm just reading Enrique's comments. And a few other people came in. Clay.
I should probably try to log on to YouTube and see what I can see.
I didn't think there was too much happening on YouTube, but hey, if you're on YouTube, give us type something in the text and say hello. See Clay just walked into the room on Gun Channels. So yeah, it's like, I guess most people get their naval knowledge from, watching, movies, Hollywood movies. So, which is, there's a good movie actually coming out that I think is going to be in some theaters called Five Came Back, which is about like John Ford and all the other big five directors that went to World War II specifically to film the war and show it to the American people. And of course, they came back with a lot of knowledge and experience, and obviously those people made great movies after they came back. But there's a movie called Five Came Back specifically about the directors that, served, in, Navy and Army and Marine photographic units. They were there, like John Ford was at the Battle of Midway with the camera, on Midway, so I think he actually got footage of the Japanese attacking Midway, before they lost all their carriers. That was a big deal. So, and I know, like I was saying earlier, I think Mike Pence is coming out to visit on his Pacific tour. He's going down to Australia and a few other places in the Pacific, and he's going to visit Pearl Harbor in Arizona. Pacific Rim says, what Navy? I never saw that show. That was a movie, Pacific Rim. But, hey, I watch the Military History Channel all the time, and, probably seen Charlton Heston in Midway and all that stuff. And I think I've seen all the war movies at one point.
The only thing I don't like about some of the military documentaries is that the stock footage they use is not always accurate. They'll describe something from, say, World War II, and they'll use Vietnam footage, or vice versa, or something like that. And you just got somebody in the editing room that's just been told to edit this, and he has no idea that the aircraft that he's showing while the narrator's talking about it wasn't invented for 25 years. They don't know the difference. So, or they're talking about a B-17, they're showing footage of a B-24 or something like that. So,
well, back then, editing used to be done on a moviola. So, it wasn't like, you just pull everything up on a computer like you do now, and then send all the.
I'm talking about documentaries now.
Oh. Well, then you can't fix stupid. So,
I'm sure that these guys who do the work on the documentaries do a documentary on whatever they're told to do a documentary on. They don't grab somebody who knows the difference between, one type of gun or another, or one type of plane or another, one type of ship or another. They'll be talking about the German U-boats, and they'll be showing pictures of American subs.
Yeah, well, a lot of this just gets farmed out, film companies used to have vaults with like all kinds of footage of, really great stuff and newsreels, but it was just taking up space, and so they just got rid of it all, and they either gave it away or burned it, and that happened to a lot of stuff, because, they had other things they needed the space for, and just, so there's a lot of footage that just got, lost in time and space or burned, that, was just sitting in vaults doing nothing, or just deteriorated. And the way this film companies, work now, they'll all get sent over to some company in Europe, where they don't even know what a gun is, I guess. But it's just, it'll get sent to like Technicolor, who'll, try and figure out what to do with it, and somebody will edit it together that doesn't know what they're doing. But the industry isn't what it used to be.
I guess not.
I never saw the Japanese version of Yamato's Last Days. Yamato was destroyed I think in Battle for Leyte Gulf.
Good film.
You saw that?
Good film. I saw the final scene on YouTube, and the waves of aircraft coming in, and these guys just running ammo up onto the deck, and they're getting torn to pieces, but they're fighting for their life. I thought that was really good, but no, I haven't seen the entire film end to end.
Yeah, well,
the Yamato was sunk underway to Okinawa. They were going to beach her on the shore and point her guns at the fleet, and if she's beached, she can't be sunk, so they figure her armor would protect her, and they were just going to use her, until the ammo ran out, and she never made it.
Well, the most Okinawa, I think that's where they started using kamikazes, the kamikazes did the most damage to the U.S. Navy in World War II, I believe. They sunk the most ships and ripped up the most carriers, and until they ran out of pilots, but they were the original cruise missile, they were the original Tomahawks, because they had a human guidance system. It's just, but if you use up all your good pilots like that.
Yeah, they had the Oka. We called it one thing and they called it another. In Japanese, they called it cherry blossom, and we called it fool. I believe Oka was fool. It was a rocket with a human guidance system and warhead with, I can't remember how much high explosive in it, and they would take it up in a Betty bomber, and they'd bolt this guy in, and there was no turning back, there was no landing gear, there was no ejection seat, there was no nothing. and they'd drop him over the fleet, and he'd come down so fast that they couldn't train the guns. The guns weren't couldn't lead the target because he was going faster than what they had the gun set up for. The guns were set up to shoot at piston engine planes, and these guys would come in and hit the sides of the ships and do damage. I don't know how many were actually used because the Betty bombers that they were loaded in were slow and were easily picked off. So I think a lot of them never even got launched. But there's a human cruise missile. It's kamikaze and it's rocket powered, and yeah,
they were the first ones. And
subs.
Well, but the missiles, just the pilots and the planes loaded with explosives, they were the first effective, like anything like a cruise missile. And they what was the first aircraft carrier that was almost it wasn't sunk, but it was like completely burned out? Gambia Bay or something like that.
That's Langley?
Nah, it was something like
the first one sunk by a kamikaze.
No, the first carrier just completely burned almost to a crisp, but it got back home. It was like a piece of toast. I mean, Gambia Bay, I think, was the name of it. And
that would have been an escort carrier with a name like that. So yeah,
and
they're smaller and more lightly armored and whatnot.
I'm trying to pull back the stuff out of my memory because like old guys like me just sit around watching the Military History Channel all day, and
Well, I can tell you, I went to the Intrepid in New York City, and they had a lot of stuff about the kamikazes that tried to take the Intrepid down, and they did a lot of damage to the ship, or it might not have been kamikazes, it might have just been an aerial attack, but they did so much damage to the ship that the Japanese were sure they put it out of commission. And the next day, the ship's launching strikes against the Japanese, so they called it the ghost ship because it just wouldn't die. So there were carriers that got sunk, and it was tragic. And then there were other ones that stayed operational despite all the odds because of the fighting spirit of the American. So,
well, the Japanese had fighting spirit too. I mean, they fought back as hard as they could, and America had realized that an invasion of Japan would be like. It would cost, like, I don't know what the estimate was on Operation X, or Plan X for the invasion of Japan, and Kyushu. And that would have been like, over 1 million American soldiers dead if they had to do that, and God knows how many Japanese would have died fighting to the last person for the emperor. I mean, civilians with pitchforks, I mean, it would have been a real mess. So, and it was like, maybe it's something that like, nobody now can conceive of, how it was like the U.S. wasn't going to stop and the Japanese weren't going to surrender. It was just against, it was just, it was against what passed for Bushido code, and the U.S. wasn't going to stop, and so the best thing about the war is when they end. So, but let's see. I think Clay said everybody. So and it's better if you can avoid starting one, but. So Clay got a new gun or something? I'm just trying to keep up with this chat here. Okay, Clay, what kind of new gun did you get at the risk of being demonetized? It's really more of a truck bear gun. Oh, he got a Beretta. Oh, I'm trying to see. Did you get a Beretta, Clay? I'm trying to read all this. Maybe Dano, who's in the side chat, can explain why he didn't buy a Glock and he bought a car handgun that jams instead. After I went to all that. Hold up.
Dano got the M57.
Okay.
Which I'm taking apart one right now to clean.
And they jam, right?
I don't know. I haven't fired this one yet. There's too much cosmoline in it. So it's the M57 is a Yugoslavian TT-33 pistol. I took my Romanian TTC, which is similar, out today, and it didn't like feeding reloads. So I'm going to clean this one and try my reloads in this and see if it likes them.
Okay. Dano says he has a Glock 43, and I guess he sold his car. And Clay says he bought a Glock 20.
Okay, the Glock 20 is a 10 millimeter, right?
Well, I'll let Clay answer that. Yeah, so I mean, I was trying to remember if Dano was on my Lock and Load I Hate Glocks show, which was when I went through the decision that I made and how I was looking at full-size handguns for 9 millimeter, and I wound up with a Glock 17 after considering everything else, and so I thought that was I'm trying to remember if Dana was on that show, because I think it was pretty conclusive. I came to the realization. Yeah, Clay says it's a 10 millimeter. I don't own a 10 millimeter auto myself.
One day I'd like to.
Well, all you gotta do is, you're at a gun show. You have one near your area now, so hopefully you can actually eventually meet up with Dusty One at that gun show if he's feeling up to it next time. So
they hold them every week here in Michigan, so.
Oh, that's cool. I wish we had a gun show every week. We don't have any gun. They have one once a year in Honolulu. I'd have to fly. I don't know about Maui.
You'd have to decide between preps, silver, or guns.
Well, lately I've been into knives. So, like I showed that knife when you were dropped out. I showed my new. I'll show it again. My Kydex, I don't know if I did. Well, you saw it on Edge's chat, right? Turn it back on.
Yeah, this is the one that you gave me the link to the website.
Yeah, I'll show it again, just because anybody came in late might want to see it. Hit the button on my camera. So this is a Kydex sheath with Mandrake Cryptek camo, and that's a tech lock on the back, and it opens like, let's lock me open it. Click the switch there on the end, little switch, then you just press down, and the top comes off, and you put it around your belt, right? And here's the blade. That's Dawson knives out of Prescott, Arizona. 5160 steel. It's Cerakoted, Sand Viper camo pattern Cerakote to protect the the steel off the blade from oxidization or rust. Eventually you start using it, some of it'll scrape off, especially near to the edge. You start doing wood processing and stuff. So 5160 is basically a plain carbon steel. It's not super high carbon, but it's got some chromium to make it very tough. They have a YouTube channel, Dawson Blades. I'm going to see if it's on the other side. Let me flip it. Dawson out of Prescott, Arizona. They basically have a YouTube channel. They basically took one of their knives, stuck it in a tree, and then stood on it. So it's a pretty tough blade. If they put more stainless steel, if they put more chromium, it wouldn't be tough anymore. You have to put just a little bit of chromium for toughness. Try and get the edge on here in the light. If you put in too much chromium, it won't be tough anymore. If you just put in a little, and get the quenching right at the right temperature, then it will be very tough. And so, but it won't be rust free because it's not stainless steel. It's not enough chromium for stainless. And so that's my micarta handles, pin, lanyard. Sand Viper, Cerakote. And they have a website, Dawson Blades, made in America, in Arizona. So I hope you guys like that knife. I do. I'm just so stoked. Here's the tang from the side. Got a jimping on the top of the blade, full tang. And it really feels nice. And here we go. It's I consider it more of a bushcraft knife, but yeah, I mean, sure, if you are in a knife fight, if you stick this in somebody, it will kill them. But I mostly got it as a camp knife. That's how they sell it, a 5-inch camp knife. And I wanted a good camp knife. This definitely fills the bill. So I'm not totally out of silver or guns or ammo or prepping, but I was definitely into knife mode lately. So but I hope you guys like that. I'm gonna go chop up some wood with that really soon. Do some processing. Anyway, I'm gonna go take a look out on the YouTube side. I haven't been watching that. I can make my way over there. Does anybody else on the panel got anything new? Perhaps guns, silver, stuff like that?
Well, just a 757.
You bought an airplane?
At one point I did want to buy one.
Well, they use an awful lot of fuel. You need a place to park them. And God knows what the insurance would be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just it. You can get a loan for an airplane from the credit union, okay? It's like getting a loan for an RV. I'm not talking about a $1 million airplane. I'm talking about something in the tens of thousands or maybe even a $100,000 airplane.
I see those commercials for the Navy Federal Credit Union.
Yep.
You walk into the Navy.
Military benefit I've got.
You walk in, I need a loan for an airplane. What if you went in and said, I need
I called them.
Yeah. What did they say?
No, I called them and they said, yes, we'll give you a loan. It's more or less like a RV loan. They said, we can put you on a 30-year loan for an airplane. Damn. But, having worked on them and whatnot, I know what all the operational costs are, and then I've got to get certified to fly it. And, if I do an experimental, I can do my own maintenance. If I don't do an experimental, I'm going to have to pay somebody because I'm not allowed to do my own maintenance without an A&P. And yeah, the hangar, I could share a hangar with somebody to offset the fees and gas at that time was going for about $5 a gallon.
Okay, I'm gonna have to show my knife again because I have all this time I've had the damn thing, the screen locked on you from when you were showing. So let me go again with the knife.
Oh, sorry.
No, that was my fault. It wasn't your fault, man. All right, let's see if I can do this right. Let me hit the button one more time. Put it in. Where is the button? Okay, I hope you guys can see me now. I apologize before. Here is the Kydex Cryptek Mandrake sheath for the knife. It's got a tech lock on the back. Sorry you guys didn't see it the first time. I'm trying to do this backwards. So basically you press down, this comes open, goes right on your belt. And if you take this slider, now you can press down and it won't open. It's locked into position. So here's the sheath, here's the knife. Sorry you missed it the first time, guys. This is a Dawson knives out of Arizona. Sorry, I had it locked on squib. My card handles, 2 pins, lanyard hole. There's the nice thick spine, 5160 steel. Cerakote, Sand Viper, called Sand Viper pattern. Basically Cerakote to protect the steel. And because it's not stainless steel, it's 5160. It's got enough chromium on it just to make it tough. And it's 5-inch camp blade, basically, jimping on top. Dawson Knives out of Prescott, Arizona. They have a website. You can check out their blades. They have more fighting knives, but if this will do in a pinch for a fighting knife, but I got it for a camping knife, not a fighting knife. Prescott, Arizona. Made in the USA. Fit, spine. There you go.
Do you know who else is in Prescott, Arizona?
Ruger.
Correct. One of their factories.
So I hope you guys like that over there on Gun Channels. We do knives. But yeah, so I've been in the knife mode lately. And that was on my wish list on Blade HQ. I have to remember not to go on Blade HQ too often because it's so easy to spend money. So I think that one cost quite a bit. But anyway, never enough knives, never enough tomahawks. Yeah, if I start, I don't know, if I go to zombietools.net, they have some like a Tomahawk that looks pretty cool, and the Kraken battle axe.
Nice.
I mean, I think I showed that last week. We went last week when Oily Prepper was on, and I think that was in the after chat. See if I could find it and screen share it now that I'm not locked on Squib anymore. The first time it was live on Squib. Well, this is live YouTube, so when I fuck up, I fuck up live. So let's see.
That's what the people want. We want the sincerity.
Sincerity? You want us to screw up on live?
Everything's real. This is not
real.
edited for content. This is real.
Yes. If you want something edited for content with rock and roll music to the background, I have some of that on some of my videos. You could go look for them. But if YouTube probably has demonetized them, so you don't have to. So, but
they've demonized them.
Well, they had to. Well, yeah, the mainstream media demonized Google, and YouTube. And it's like, look at all these. Look, Pepsi. Look at all the terrible videos. Here's your bottle of Pepsi is like, on this terrible video about guns or something, And so Pepsi was like, oh no, we were pulling all our advertising from Google. And so they're going to make people get their news from, NBC or something, Nitwit Broadcasting or Nothing Broadcasting or Super Bland, lowest common, they just call it LCD, lowest common denominator television. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if just everybody begging for Patreon donations is really going to help, because the problem is, I've already talked about it. So you showed up late, go back and watch the video again. Do it quick before they demonetize. So Dano traded in his car. Go ahead.
Oh, go on about the car. Sorry.
Well, I was saying that I talked to somebody else that said they got a car and it jams all the time too. A handgun, and I thought it was the guy that we talked about.
Dano's.
Yeah, he said he sold it.
I thought Dano's issue with the car was that, it was just too small.
I thought his issue was that it jammed. Maybe it was both.
Oh, okay.
I know that somebody else, like the guy I mentioned who was working out last week with the wet saw on the tiles, and I asked him, is that your car out there in the guest parking with a High Point sticker on it? He said, no, I have a 1911 but I also have a car that jams, but I don't have a high point, he said. So I was like, oh, okay. It's like, damn, I was going to make a video asking you why you didn't sell your high point, but so I seen that car parked out. Next time I'll just camp out and wait for him. But I had a show to do, so I couldn't just camp out and wait for somebody to show up by whoever parked their car with a high point sticker in the guest parking. Oh, man. Well, I'm not Ted Nugent, Dano. It's been a long time since I played guitar, and I think Ted Nugent is probably a better guitar player than I ever was. But anyway, he's got a nice ranch and a lot of guns. But all right, so I've been waiting. I heard that Fox Company Prepping is going to get his show from Scotland started all over again. So, but it hasn't happened. He said a video that said he's going to start it up again. So, Man the Fuck Up Fridays or something, what it was. But then he switched to Saturday. So, and it was like Into the Foxhole or something. And he put out a few videos, so he's doing okay. So, do we talk about the EU or anything? Because it's like the European hegemony. I'm just trying to figure out if Scotland wants to leave the UK. Okay, I can understand that. But why would they want to stay in the EU? That's even worse than the UK. I mean, it's like the European hegemony, a bunch of, I don't know if anybody saw Nigel Farage and all the other people all the other British politicians in Brussels, telling all the EU people that they don't have to buy German cars or drink French wine. And it's just, it is really like some kind of dictatorship in Brussels, of regulators. And what really gets me about Europe is I don't understand why, they think it's like if you're against Merkel, then you're a fascist. But she's for the EU. It's like
fascist in Europe.
Yeah, but I'm saying, be careful who you call a fascist, because look in the mirror first. I don't know who the fascists are, but it's probably the fascists are the people that are calling the other side fascists. So it's just, if you don't agree with, all the, in France, there's a story that I saw. I don't know if it's true. I don't, but it was basically that a Jewish lady got thrown out of like a third floor window by her immigrant Muslim neighbor, who said, that he was going around saying that he hated dirty Jews. So he threw her out of a window, and killed her. So, he didn't, it's like, really? And basically, the thing they were saying in France is, well, if Jewish people can't live in France, then neither can French people. So, because it's just politically correct, immigration from, and this is all, a lot of people from Syria that just, aren't European moving into European countries that don't know, I don't know. I've said it before, after World War II, everybody was an immigrant in Europe. My family was immigrants. And here's the thing I wanted to tell Dusty, my family bugged out and we never went back. Technically, my family is still bugging out. Hitler overran Poland. My family was in Warsaw, and we were Jewish. Of course we bugged out. And we didn't never go back. So technically, this has been odd. My family has been bugged out since 1939. And I don't think we even had a bug out bag. I remember the stories was that basically there's a lot of people who were trying to get the hell out of, Nazi occupied Poland, get across the border. And basically my grandfather, wouldn't take money from him. So, he said, well, I'll help guide you guys across the border into Russia. Just, he gave him a sheet, a bed sheet with a bunch of his stuff, just to help carry me some of my stuff. And then when one guy got caught by the Russian border guards, my grandfather chased after him and says, "No, leave him alone. He's just carrying my stuff." That somehow explained everything, because he was sneaking across the border too. But it was just funny. I mean, bugging out is not what you expect it to be. Yeah, but it beat the alternative. People getting thrown into a death camp. But so there are situations that can arise where you have to bug out. But it's definitely not your first choice. But sometimes you just don't have a choice. It's a lot of crazy stories that go with that bug out. But hey, so how I wound up in Hawaii is a whole other story. So basically, Hitler overran Poland, and that's how I wound up in Hawaii. Man, that's crazy.
Everything's tied together somehow.
Yeah, it's a long story, which I won't try and condense into one Never Enough Tomahawks. But chat. So anybody out there in gun channels wants to mention that, yeah, that knife could take some abuse, Clay. It's just I did oil just the edge part with gun oil. I had some Otis Ultra Bore, and I put that just on the edge because the Cerakote protects the blade from rusting, basically. But eventually, if you start chopping wood with it and processing wood and for campfires and doing feather sticks and shit, and eventually the Cerakote will scrape off. It won't just stay on there permanently. But it looks really cool. I like it a lot, and it's definitely, I've been like on a knife. I've had a knife buzz for 4 or 5 days ever since it got here. So yeah, it's basically I sleep with. I've been sleeping with it. Take it to sleep with me. So yeah, bugging out of California. I remember when Clinton sent in the. It's not just bugging out to avoid the anti-gun laws, but I remember after when Clinton sent in the 7th Fleet into the Taiwan Straits, or the Sea of China, in the Taiwan Straits, after they had been doing a bunch of military exercises of fake invasions of Taiwan, then the Chinese general, one of the Chinese generals, threatened to nuke Los Angeles. Because they didn't like the 7th Fleet deploying into the Taiwan Strait, and messing up their fake and practice invasion of Taiwan. So I was like, well, shit, if they're going to nuke LA, I better get out of here. So I moved to Hawaii. But that was part of it. That was a small part of it. I just don't think that the Big Island is really going to be a target. And, but because there's really nothing here worth wasting a missile or a nuke on. There's just one target range at Pakaloa. Sometimes they do, mostly the Marines use it for, mortar practice, artillery practice, gunnery practice. They used to do some aerial bombardments with depleted uranium, which people protest about depleted uranium. But that mostly now I've only seen mortars being used. I've driven by when they were practicing with mortars. Once in a while, they have a military convoy that comes up from the Kauai High, and brings up the troops who are going to be practicing. Basically, just a target range. That's all we have on the Big Island. Most of all the bombers are at Anderson Air Base and Guam, and Pearl Harbor has a lot of ships. But
in Guam,
yeah, Alamo of the Pacific. And Guam is the Alamo of the Pacific. Got that rep during World War II. Japanese tried to take it.
yeah, you got an Iowa class battleship out there.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor. I mean, it's not mine. I don't own it. But yeah, I don't think they would. I mean, technically, it's a long gun. It has rifled. It doesn't. They aren't cannons. We aren't allowed to own cannons in Hawaii. Those are rifled guns. So, and I know it has to. We don't have a maximum length. All I know is that the gun has to be can't be a short barreled rifle. Those are banned. But as long as it's over 16 inches, and I know those guns are over 16 inches. So I just don't know how to get those. If I was to buy that battleship, I don't know how I'd get it to the firearms clerk at the police station. You have to bring the police station to the gun, not the gun to the police station.
Yes, you do.
So anyway, yeah, I spent like the last few days cleaning off my parang, and I think my AK got some rain on it. So when I was like the last time I was at the range, so I had to I have some hoppies that the hoppies foaming gun cleaner. Basically had to use that and some shop towels to get off some little bits of I don't know what it was, because it was I think that there was an interaction between the sulfuric acid from the volcano rain and basically because it got a lot of rain on it, and so I had to basically clean the barrel and the whole gun from like little orange spots that had come up, and I got it pretty clean. Then I just re-oiled it. But yeah, there's some of the
that may be a unique issue for you as far as guys on gun channels with things about their guns. You have to worry about acidity from the volcano.
Volcanic rain.
It'll eat up the metal on your gun.
No, it'll put little orange spots and shit on it. It was just it ate away a little some of the little black, baked on black paint, and I've got more of that. I could redo it all if I want to take the gun apart and just, basically it's just barbecue black, and just take the metal parts off and repaint it, and then bake it in an oven, and then for an hour or something, and then let the paint dry. But it's basically barbecue black Rust-Oleum paint that you could do to get the exact same thing. But it makes it look used. Like it makes it look like an AK. Who wants a fucking pristine AK that looks like it's never been shot? Or out in the rain once. I mean, a real AK is gonna look like. I want mine to look like I use it. Fuck. So we got a little volcanic rain on it. Fuck it. I cleaned it. I oiled it. Just a few little spots aren't like perfect is all. So what? It's an AK. The only thing that's supposed to be perfect about an AK is it is the ping that the target makes when I hit it. So yeah, between that and cleaning some knives and oiling up some knives, that's been what I've been doing. And lately, I've been dealing with my water heater. I have a brand new Whirlpool water heater, and for my condo, and the heating element is shorted out, which is apparently a common problem. So I've got to go find a plumber, but I got the parts for free. Whirlpool is you just said go to Lowe's, and they gave me a number, and to just tell them the number, and they'll give me all the replacement parts for free. But it's past its 1 year labor. Labor
There's
isn't
nothing
covered.
to changing that out.
Well, that's what somebody told me, but he also, the same guy that told me there's nothing to change it out, it just lefty, loosey, righty, tighty. But and drain, and probably drain all the
yeah, you drain it. Yeah, you drain it first.
Yeah, and turn off the electricity. I could try and do it, but it's if I do something wrong and all the water leaks downstairs, then I don't know. I'm not I don't like doing plumbing. I did some plumbing once. I put in all the sinks and faucets and new fixtures, and I put in new Delta faucets, and I don't ever want to do that again. And plus, I've also put in my, the reverse osmosis machine under the sink, reverse osmosis, and I never want to do that again. My back hurt for like days after doing that, because my kitchen is sticking in a reverse osmosis is like, back. It just really, you have to twist yourself into a knot to access the bottom of the where the rings go for the clean water dispenser, filtered water dispenser. Tankless water heaters. Yeah, they have those if for living off of the grid, but I'm on the grid here in town, so why bother? I mean, the good thing about a water heater with a tank is that it's a great emergency water supply. It's a 30-gallon water heater. So it's like it's a 30-gallon water storage, and it's got a little thing on the bottom, so if I need to drain it out for drinking water, I could. But yeah, it's that right now the heating element is shorted out, so if it keeps hitting the breaker on the water heater internal breaker that's on the tank itself keeps popping, so and it gets super hot, and then it shorts out. The water was like steaming, ridiculously hot, and then it just the breaker pops, and so anyway, I'll deal with it. But so plumbing, cleaning AKs, cleaning knives, buying knives. I already got all my gas mask filters. But yeah, volcanic rain is something we definitely have to deal with, and firearms. Basically, I had my AK developed like a case of the orange splotches. So I just got that foaming hoppy stuff, and some shop towels, and I just wiped it all off. And then I put some oil on it, and I think I used some more Ultra Bore, because I pretty much use that Otis stuff for everything. Although now that Sports Authority is closed, it's going to be harder to get. I'll have to pay to have it shipped in. I usually use that. But, hey, cleaning an AK is a fun way to spend the day, I guess. It's the gun channels kind of thing to do, I guess.
Spend the day with your AK.
Yeah, so is Dusty still with us? I don't hear him talking about anything. Boy, he goes to the hospital for just a little while, and he loses his voice. He's probably drinking beer, and he doesn't want his doctor to know.
I wish I was. I just kind of sitting here listening. I'm lazy tonight.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're still with us. I know how it is to, have to go to the hospital and have the vampire show up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning with a smiley face. Saying, can we please draw some blood? And it's just like, but anyway. So are you ever going to buy a bug out bag or what? Never mind.
You're not gonna let that go, are you?
Well, I gotta fill. Hey, I got space to fill here. How long is this chat so far? But anyway.
Oh, I don't know.
That's okay. Yeah, this is a rhetorical question. Let's see. Okay, we talked about chaos and bedlam consuming the world. UV light waves. 1 inch of topsoil left on the planet.
UV.
Socially transmitted diseases, deforestation, and irreversible progressive depletion of the global gene pool. The economic collapse, the silver Peak Silver or something. Oh, yeah, I heard somebody said on one of the silver YouTube channels that they got this new flexible cell phone coming out and it has like a ton of silver in it. So I'm going like, well, great. I was about to buy the Samsung Galaxy 8. I was thinking maybe I should get one of those, but now they've got some flexible phone that's made out of a ton of silver or something. It's like, well, I don't know what, if anything, is going to make my silver stash go up anytime soon. It seems like the people who sell paper metals on the COMEX will, just keep selling paper on the COMEX until they can't sell paper no more. But I don't know if I should wait. If I should buy a Galaxy 8 or wait. I mean, my Galaxy 3 is still working fine. And actually what's cool about my Galaxy 3 is I can actually take out the battery of the Galaxy 3. And I think some of the new ones, you can't take out your phone. The battery.
You cannot.
Yeah. But the Galaxy 3, you can take out the battery. So, and I picked up a Eaton, a battery. Oh, I should go get it. And Eaton like an extra. It's like this little square thing that holds the USB thing that plug into it that you could charge off the USB port up, in a couple hours, and it basically holds 2 complete cell phone recharges on it. So if your cell phone dies, you just plug the USB cord into it, and it's like a little portable battery, with a USB plug, and it doesn't weigh anything. And if you shake it from side to side, there's like 4 lights will come off if it's completely charged, has a full charge on it. So I got that from Blade. They had it on sale at Blade HQ, and so when I got my knife, I picked up a few other things like that. So I won't say it's a bug out item, but I thought it would just, if you go out camping and it's nice to have extra juice for your cell phone, in case there's an emergency, you need it. But right now, my Galaxy 3, I can unplug the battery. So if I don't want to be tracked, because a lot of cell phones you cannot. And with the way people are tracking and
power
hacking,
it off, dude.
Well, you can power it off, but that doesn't mean they can't track you. If there's power to your cell phone, it's powering it off is not the same as unplugging it, the battery. So. But I'm not really hiding from anybody right now. So, but if I wanted to, it's nice to know that if I want to unplug, if I want to unplug my cell phone, I could, if I want to unplug the battery, and because I like to be able to, if I don't want to have anybody build, like if you drive past that military base, Pakaloa, they will monitor you, they'll turn on your phone and see what you have in your car, because you're driving right by the military base, and it's just for security. They've got the police will look, turn on your phone, turn on the camera on your phone, and look in your car. So they can't do that if there's no battery. So not that I have anything to hide, but I just like to exercise my rights of not being spied on by the government. I don't know if there is such a right, but
that's the American way. That's the American way. I've tried to explain to some of the Europeans I work with that Americans like their privacy, and some of the Europeans I've talked to don't seem to understand why we wouldn't give up our privacy for protection.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to them, look, that's the way they do it where you're at, but here we just don't. That's not our way.
It's not in the Constitution. There's no right to privacy in the Constitution. I mean, there's the Fourth Amendment, but that's not really a right to privacy. That's a right to, not have your person or your property or your personal property and effects and papers being seized by the government without a court warrant. That's not a right to privacy. It's close, but no cigar. But we like our privacy. It's just, we're getting less and less of it. So, it's like so the whole thing with Google and the gun channels being demonetized is like and the mainstream media forcing that is like we either get oatmeal crappy news or we get spied on by Google and the government. So you just either way you lose. Heads you lose, tails you lose. But anyway. Anything else? Have we killed?
So, are you going to call?
Yeah.
Are you going to call the cruise missile strike a? We'll do the daily gun show thing. Good idea, bad idea.
How about just an idea? It is what it is. I mean,
All right. Well,
I mean,
I'll go on record right now saying, as of right now, I think it was the right thing to do. I understand that we could have sent troops in. I also understand we could have turned our backs on it. I'm not saying that this is the type of response every time there's, some government attacks its civilians. And, we've done cruise missile strikes in the past. I mean, sometimes it's been about sending a message. Sometimes it's been about keeping American troops out of a conflict, and sometimes it's just about distracting the press because the president's up to his eyeballs in trouble. But that's what they're there for. The cruise missiles serve a purpose, and it's
distracting the press. You're better off targeting the press.
Necessarily fly. Yeah, well, it's to keep our military from having to actually go into harm's way, whether it's on the ground or in the air, and it still does a mission. And something may come out later, and I may have to go back and say, okay, I was wrong. It wasn't a good idea. But for right now, I think based on past use of this Tomahawk missile and the situation that, and believe me, I really don't like getting into another country's business.
Syria isn't really a country anymore.
But air quotes, another country. We're only concerned about our own interests, or we think we're doing the right thing, and it comes back to bite us later. This could come back to bite us later, but sometimes there's a time for no action, and sometimes there's a time that something is better than nothing. And I think right now, until something changes with this, I think we did the right thing.
Well, I get nervous when everybody in Europe agrees with what we do. So. I'd be happier if they were complaining, but
that's true.
I would say that it really depends on whether the Russians and the Syrians have an emotional reaction or a logical reaction. I guess it'll say a lot more about them than it says about us. What their reaction is. Like I said, they purposely weren't trying, or they were not trying to kill anybody, but they could have easily, if they wanted to, if they didn't tip off the Russians, they could have targeted, the pilots, their mess hall, they could have blown up the where they keep the chemical weapons, but who knows where the wind would have blown all that shit, so.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we do already have troops in Syria, so. Basically, there's a problem, and they can't really do anything, the troops in Syria, because they're waiting for the Turks and the Kurds to stop squabbling. They need the Turkish tanks to like break into Raqqa and throw out ISIS. But the Kurds don't like the Turks. The Kurds are afraid that if they send all their troops into Raqqa, that the Turks are going to overrun all the Kurdish towns, and while the Kurdish Peshmerga aren't there, are busy in Raqqa, the Turks are going to attack, and the Turks don't want to have anything to do with the Kurds, and it's just like a big mess. So, and I heard that, and Turkey is like, basically that the U.S. is pulling all their airplanes out of Incirlik, but what about all the nuclear weapons we have in Incirlik Air Base? and they aren't going to put those anywhere in some Syrian air base or something. So what happens to all those? If the U.S. pulls out of Incirlik air base and moves to Greece or something, but I've heard they're stationing a lot. U.S. is stationing a lot of its planes in Syria. So, basically the thing is the Russians don't have any armor to speak of in Syria. That's the thing to keep in mind. They have no armor divisions, like they have in Russia. If Russia gets into a fight in Europe, they've got armor tanks and all shit, but they don't have any of that stuff in Syria. All they have is special forces, which is pretty useless against an armored division, So, but right now the only tanks in Syria are Turkish tanks, and they don't want to go into Raqqa, until comes to some sort of agreement with the Kurds, and the Kurds don't want to come to any agreement with the Turks, and the feeling is pretty mutual. They've been fighting forever, so it's a big Kurdish sandwich, and everybody's got to take a bite. I don't know. It's just a mess. 57 crew or 59 cruise missiles isn't going to fix the Middle East.
No, but in this case, it might have been better than just sitting on your hands. That's all.
Well, I think America felt like it wanted to do something, and so in as much as America felt like, okay, we did something, now can we go home? But it's like, okay, you wanted us to do something, we did something. Now can we go home? Or how long till we hit the bathroom? The next bathroom in, or roadhouse or something. It's not something you can really fix that simply. In America, I think I mentioned last week, in America, we solve our differences we fire off tweets, and we fire off ballots. We don't fire off bullets at people that we disagree with most of the time. In Syria, they just fire off RPGs and AKs that's voting in Syria. If you don't like them, you kill them. Or you drop a sarin gas or chlorine barrel bomb on them or something. That's how they do things in Syria. So, it's just a different kind of a sick world over there. So what's it like over, it's so much better. We got it really good. I love America.
Yeah, we do.
I know there could be a lot of problems if, Russia and China and Iran are working so that the U.S., they don't want the U.S. dollar to be the reserve currency, and that will mess up the economy if that ever does happen and it's replaced with something else. But for now, we got things pretty good. It's really jittery when you think about, I get jittery when I think about the thing that world peace is hanging on is the good common sense and restraint of Putin and Trump. So,
well, it's hung on the restraint of other leaders of both countries in the past.
Yeah. Well, I got my gas mask.
Have some faith.
Well, yeah. Usually, if you bet on America, you win. But
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Always put your money on America.
Yep. So anyway, anybody, before we close this out, anybody got anything else to say? Home Runner made a nuclear sign there on the YouTube side. I don't know how he did that. Is that a film or a nuclear radiation warning sign? Either that or it's a film reel. Let's see. That's on the YouTube channel side. Check back to gun channels. I can't figure out how to do that. Yeah, rest in peace, Sports Authority. Thank you, Clay. Dano Island out there, got anything? Did you see the Daily Gun Show today?
Yeah, I started it 20 minutes late, but it was a good show.
Anything they covered that was really important, or was it all about the YouTube demonetization, or was there actually gun stuff in there? Because I was busy dealing with my water heater this morning.
No, that you don't want to fix.
Well, I got the parts to fix it, so yeah, it will be fixed. Okay, Dano, type in like 10
what
words.
If the plumber shows up?
Yeah.
What if the plumber shows up with a High Point sticker on his van?
Maybe then I'll trade him, whatever. Maybe I could pay him in 9mm ammo instead of money or cash. But I don't know. Maybe I'd be better off just paying him in cash and keeping the ammo. Dano, type in 10 words or less. Give us a summary of so I can read it before I close out the show. Give us the 10-word summary of the Daily Gun Show from today.
Well, I sent them pictures of 3 gun shops right before our show because it kind of sounded like they were running out of shops, and it's not always easy to get pictures and whatnot. So hopefully that helps somewhere down the road.
Yeah,
I made sure one of the shops had a coffee pot because Dano likes to have his picnic table and coffee pot.
Yeah, I like coffee when I wake up in the morning too. Yeah. Also, I went down to the hot tub.
Yeah, but at the gun store.
No, I have that at my house. Well, I do coffee right. So if I don't get really good coffee, I wouldn't just, if I went to the gun shop, I'd probably have like, just Folgers or something cheap or, You shot Bob in the ass. It says, Dano says, came, had fun, shot Bob in the ass, and exchanged words with other hosts. Love my coffee in the morning. Okay, that's the Gun Channel summary for today.
Bob wanted to talk about the Canadian military victory, the one time they won a battle somewhere or something. I don't know.
They won a battle somewhere?
That's what he claims.
Okay, I'll have to wait for that to come out, and I'll have to like do a Google search for that. Shit, Canada wins, and nothing comes up.
It was World War
I.
World War One, the Battle of such and such. Yeah, the Battle of such and such.
There's a town called such and such. Okay.
Well, it was over on the Eastern Front, or whatever that is, or the Western Front. So that would.
I'm just trying to imagine Bob in battle.
This would be the Eastern Front.
Bob reminds me of one of the.
No, they didn't say Bob was in World War II or World War One.
Well, he's old enough to have been in. I know, but if he was, he reminds me of Fort Courage. Look like Sergeant Corporal Agorn from Fort Courage, or Sergeant. What was the sergeant in Fort Courage? What was the name of that damn TV show? Fort Courage with.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
I can hum the theme. Refers to victory, where Indian fights are colorful sights and nobody takes a licking. Where pale face and engine both turn chicken. F Troop. Okay, nobody got that. F Troop, Sergeant something or other, and Corporal Agarn. Well, yeah. Well, Bob was on Edge's show, and I know that he was supposed to hook up with Edge. Did he ever hook up with Edge, Dano? Because he probably would have talked about it if he did. Well, Gunsmoke wasn't a comedy. F Troop was a comedy, so they could have take more liberties. You know, that's an F Troop. They basically fire Captain Palmer kicks the cannon, the wheel falls off, and fires, and it shoots the guard tower down. You know. Okay, cool. So maybe hopefully they got to the range with Murphy's muskets and some of his black powder guns and his ball and cap revolver or something.
That would be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, should I close out the show? Anybody got anything else to say? Oh, he didn't meet Murphy? Oh, that's
no. I got 3 Tokarev pistols cleaned in the amount of time we were on, so that's
all
productive.
Right. Cool. Very cool. All right. So, I guess I already did the This Is My Tomahawk there. There are many like it, but this one is Mind Prayer somewhere earlier in the show. When you were offline or your computer died. But okay, we'll try and figure out a really good.
My computer died. It does that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Check out Nug channels. We need to change the name of gun channels to Nug channels so that to confuse the search engines or something, or to confuse Google so they don't, do whatever they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing anymore, but
maybe somebody will start up a YouTube just for gun guys and monetize it. How's that? We'll have sponsors like Cabela's and Midway USA and Ruger and.
I don't know. I'm just, some guy that lives on an island in the middle of nowhere, so. Middle of a pretty big ocean. That's why we count on the Navy.
With corrosive volcanoes.
Corrosive volcanic rain. We got to survive volcanic rain. Shit. It's like acid rain, except it's sulfuric acid. It's like, shit. Anyway, so we'll see you all next week. And I'm sure we'll have something important to say. And if we don't, we'll just make something up like we do every week. All right. So thanks. Keep your groups tight. Fight the good fight. And any other things that I could say really quick?
No, I was just letting Dano know how much Cosmoline was in my M57 because this is on its way. The one I got was from a dealer, but it's probably
how much Cosmoline was in your M57? So, exactly how much Cosmoline was in your M57?
Not very much. Not very much. It all came off with gun oil, so it wasn't packed in there. So hopefully he gets the same. It came off with a nylon brush and a bronze brush and gun oil, and I don't know if you could hear me cycling it night strike style, but I was cycling it in the background. So
I heard some stuff going on, but I was paying too close attention. All right, so Fight the good fight. Keep your grooves tight and keep your knives sharp. And oil the edge of your blades, man, so they don't rust up on you. See you guys next week.
Yes.
You are terminated.